Hello, Computer Science A. Today we are going to work on our own version of a list. So I'm going to create two files. I've already created a folder called lists. I'm just going to call the first one launcher.java, and I'm going to call the second one myList.java. And so in myList, I'm going to make a class called myList. And in launcher, I'm going to make a class called launcher. And launcher is going to have a public static void main with arguments. And myList is going to have a constructor to start. And so we'll just leave that blank. So arrays are great because they can keep track of stuff, but they fail in a few spots in the fact that you cannot change the size of an array, and you can't add and delete items easily. So we'd like to make a list object where we can maybe keep track of a list of things, but make it so that we can change the size of the array and maybe remove an item from an array, from the middle of an array. Because right now, the item in the middle of an array, you can delete what the item is, but that spot is still empty there. So yeah, that's basically gonna be what we are going to attempt to do here. So in the list, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna keep it to integers right now to keep it simple. And then we may make it so it can be anything later, but right now let's keep it in just an array of integers. So in the launcher, we're going to just say we have an object and we'll just call it L, and we may want to print it, we may want to add things to it, so we could say like L dot add 55 and L dot add 70. And we could have a few other things, but like that would be a something we might want to do. And so we have to write a function in myList that's going to keep track of this. So first, as the constructor, let's just make items. It's going to be a new int. We'll make it 100 long to start. No, let's make it 10 long to start. I'm just picking an arbitrary number at the moment. But basically, when you make an array, you want to make it as small as you can, but as large as you need. And so now I'm going to open the terminal because I'm sure I haven't been coding in Java for a little bit. I've been more in JavaScript, so I need to debug as I go. So let me go into the correct directory and Java C my launcher. And it doesn't know what add is. So I made a constructor, but I'd also like to make a, and our list, we're going to make that private. nobody ever needs to see anything outside of this object. We'll have functions that will get and set the items in the list. But we will have a public add int, call it x. And we're not going to do anything in that yet. We just want to get this to compile. Public void add. So let's see what's happening here. Okay, and it compiled. So we are able to have an item, and we're able to add items to our list, but they don't actually add. And this could be a perfectly good College Board free response question. Say we've got a list of items and we want to be able to add to that. The list is a certain length, and if the list gets too long, we have to recreate the list. So we're going to make another item called index. List size. I'm going to set that equal to 0. So no, we're not going to set it to anything up here. In the constructor, we're going to set size to 0 and array size is going to equal 10. And this is an integer. And to make this a little bit cleaner looking, we're going to actually set array size to 10, and then we're going to say items equals new int array size. So that if we change it, if we wanted to start it at 25 or something, we don't have to change one number. It's, I think, a little bit better. We should comment all of these. We're going to do that off video. So now add. What I would like to do is say, okay, well, first thing is, if our list is big enough where we can just put the item in at an index, great. We'll just put the item in an index. And then if it's not, we're going to have to make the array bigger. And then we're going to have to copy all the items in the array. But add will handle that. And from the launcher, we can just add. We don't have to care about anything. So I'm going to say if list size is less than array size, then we're in good shape. We can just say list size is 0. Okay, so we can say items list size equals X. So, and then we will say list size plus plus. So the first time we call add, if we don't have anything in the list, we're going to say, oh, now we have something in the list. And the list is now 1 longer. So instead of the size being 0, it's now 1. But then we run into a problem. After we add 10 items to the list, we don't have an array that's big enough. So we'd actually have to make a new whole array. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to make a private function copy list. And what do I want to do this? For int I equals 0, I is less than And so copy list is going to take 2 arguments. Source list and a destination. And so we've got our source. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, destination equals new int source dot length. And then we are going to go through the source and we're going to say dest I equals source I. And you know what? I'd actually then like to return the destination array. I don't even think we need to pass in. And so instead of void, it's going to be an array of integers. I'm going to compile it to see if this works. And, oh, it doesn't know what dest is because I took it out, so we're going to say int, declaring it, and it compiles. So that's good. And so then if our array size is too big, what we'll do is we will say list size, array size times equals 2. We're just going to double the length of the array. So once we're too big, we're going to double the size of the array. And we're going to get a int, let's declare this up top. We're going to need a temporary array and I already know I'm going to need to change copy list. I actually do want it to be an array of destinations. And I don't want to mess with the size in here. We're just going to, destination is going to have to be big enough when you pass it in. You'll see why when we come down here. So we have a temp array, so we're going to say temp is equal to new int array size. And then we're going to say temp, we can say copy list, and we can pass in our source, which would be items, and temp. So what that's going to do is that's going to copy all of our items into our temporary array. And then we're going to say items equals new int array size. And then we're going to copy everything back. And this might seem like very unnecessary, but it's actually completely necessary. I'll try to explain why. And so in theory, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, our array isn't big enough, so let's double the size of the array. Let's make a temporary array that we can copy everything into. And then let's copy all of the items back into our array that we're keeping a track of everything. So, so then the array, the items list, will then will double in size, and we'll have all the old items that used to be in there. When you recreate it, it's basically throwing out the first list and making a new one. So that's why we have to store them in this temporary array. And so now we should be able to add for a long time. So I'm just gonna, we don't have any visuals we'll do that in the next video, but that didn't break. And without being able to check this, again, we're going to make a 2-string, but I'm just going to say let's add a whole bunch of numbers. Doesn't matter if they're the same or if they're different. But hopefully it doesn't break, and it doesn't seem to break, so that's probably working. Next video, we will make a 2-string option so that when we print the array, it will print all the items in the array, and then we'll be able to see what's happening.